This video is brought to you by America First Insight. Help support the growing conservative movement by becoming a member today. And if you want to support this channel, you can also use the code REAL when becoming a member. Thank you and enjoy the video. Well, we got some breaking news out of the great state of New Hampshire. As a little while ago, it was confirmed that former GOP Senator John Sununu just announced his candidacy for Senate in the great state of New Hampshire. And yes, it is confirmed he will be running in 2026. And this is a massive win for the Republican Party because now the map has just been expanded even further. Now, to be fair, even before John Sununu jumped into the race, there was a pathway for the Republican Party to flip New Hampshire. There was a possibility of it because, A, New Hampshire's not as Democrat as you think it is. Now, back in 2020, yeah, Biden won the state by a bunch. But in 2024, Harris had a pathetic showing. Look at this. She won by 3, which, you know, that's an okay margin on paper. But considering the fact that Trump spent really no time and money on New Hampshire and it came within 3%, that is not a good showing for Democrats at all. So if Republicans run somebody halfway decent, there is always that possibility of the state flipping. And Republicans, even before Sununu jumped in, they did have a decent candidate in Scott Brown. And Scott Brown is somebody that could win a statewide race in New Hampshire. For those that don't know, he is a former senator of Massachusetts. He won back in 2010. Everybody probably remembers that. It's like, yeah, he's won statewide before, not in New Hampshire, but he's won statewide elections in the past. But if we're being honest here, Scott Brown is nowhere near as strong as John Sununu is, especially in New Hampshire. John Sununu, by far, is the best recruit Republicans could have gotten. Now, Chris Sununu would have been the best case scenario, but would you really trust him at this point? And he's not really a team player, so it's not really worth running the guy. But instead, you get somebody with the last name Sununu, who you could argue is actually pretty good on the issues. It's not like he's crap or whatever. When he was in the Senate back in like 2006 or whatever, his voting record's actually pretty strong. He was anti-Patriot Act, he was pro-gun, he was anti-amnesty, and he overall had a very solid track record. So you're basically getting a more conservative version of Chris Sununu. In my opinion, that's a huge win. Now, will he have the same electability as Chris Sununu? Maybe not. But he is somebody that's won statewide before. He has that last name. And it really sounds like the Republican Party in New Hampshire, they're going to get behind him. They're going to get behind him more than likely. Now, I still think Democrats are the clear favorites in this race, not by 90 points or whatever, but I think at the end of the day, even with John Sununu running, he is not the favorite. All right, he has the last name. He is a former senator. He is known statewide. I get that. But the Democrat Party, they do have a very strong candidate running in Chris Pappas. But you look at the polling, and against Scott Brown, who I think is a fairly strong candidate, not the best, but he's somebody that could maybe win in a best case scenario. He's losing by 10, 15 points in all the polls. Compare that to John Sununu. Look at this. Sununu, worst poll was the University of New Hampshire, which is a Democrat-leaning pollster anyways. They had him down by 6, right? And Chris Pappas, he's not even at 50%. So John Sununu, just for the simple fact he has the last name Sununu, is down by at most 6% against a very strong Democrat in Chris Pappas, who's been in office for a long time now, like I think 10 years, or not 10 years, but like 8 years. And he's fairly popular. He's a big overperformer. Yet John Sununu is within the margin of error in most polls. Really? Even though he's not been in statewide office for 15 years now, he is in a great position to possibly win. Again, Chris Pappas is the clear favorite. But instead of being favored, 90% or whatever, it's like a 90-10 chance of him winning. It probably does go down to he's the favorite, but it's around a 70% chance of winning, 65%, somewhere in that range. Still a favorite, but not the clear 90% chance of winning like it was with Scott Brown. That's why this is a big deal. And you look at the map right now, and we've been over this many times before. This map is horrible for Dems. Don't let them fool you. This map sucks. Like, at this point, their Hail Mary was flipping all these competitive states, holding every single competitive state, and then it would be 50-50. And their Hail Mary was flipping a state like Iowa or Texas. That was always their strategy. That should tell you everything, by the way. They have to win a place like Iowa, Texas, Ohio, just to have a chance of 50 in the Senate. Now, Democrats, they're claiming, oh, this is a legitimate possibility of us winning 52 Senate seats. It's like, no, you're not winning Texas. It might get closer with Ken Paxton, but now that Democrats are running possibly Jasmine Crockett, who is more than likely to get the nomination, you could run Ken Paxton and his scandal could be worse than we expect, sure. Jasmine Crockett's not winning statewide, even against Ken Paxton. So you have a very weak candidate running in Texas, who, by the way, is going to have a very competitive primary. We're not taking this seriously. Could it be close with Paxton? Yeah. But even then, more than likely, people are going to get behind Wesley Hunt. And at that point, that whole argument's bullshit. Same with Iowa. You're not going to win Iowa. All right. Even a best case scenario, it gets within like 5 points. Congrats. You still lose. So already, you're at 50 in the Senate for the GOP. Well, Ohio, you're not losing Ohio. Stop pushing this crap that, oh, Sherrod Brown's a strong candidate. He was 10 years ago. Even then, you could look at his past results. They weren't actually as impressive as you think they were. But either way, he is an overrated candidate. He lost as the incumbent against Bernie Moreno, who, Bernie Moreno I supported. He's a good guy. He's a good senator. But it's like, he was not the strongest candidate in the world. Yet he still won by 3 to 4 points. And in fact, the polls right now, the same ones that claimed he was going to win, they have the race like tied. And the recall vote is showing like a 10-point shift against him. This race is basically done also. So you are already at 51 for the GOP. The pathway for the Democrats in the Senate, it's basically zero. I don't get why they're pushing this idea we're gonna win Ohio. No, you're not. At this point, you have issues now in New Hampshire. I mean, how can you say you're going to win Ohio by a landslide margin because Brown was a strong candidate when you might have an issue in New Hampshire? Like, yes, you're still the favorites. But what happens if John Sununu runs a perfect campaign and the last name is as powerful as we think it is? What do you think's going to happen? You have a Republican flip in that scenario. At this point, you're not getting a Senate majority. In fact, you're getting the Republican Party to expand their majority. Like in Maine, we got to hold on to Maine. Susan Collins, they say this every year. She's going to lose by 20. She wins by 15. It happens every year. And the Democrat bench is a joke. That primary is a shit show. It's a mess up there. Again, I'm not saying they're going to win New Hampshire for sure or even Maine, but it's like, do the math. You got North Carolina. Roy Cooper, his numbers are going down. It's not even 2026 yet, and his numbers are crashing. And what happened in Charlotte with the stabbing, that's going to kill his campaign. And party registration got even worse. I mean, just look at the map. These are 3 states that could go Republican. Same thing with Georgia and Michigan. Michigan, Democrat side's a shit show for the primary. Georgia's a little bit tougher because the Republican primary is kind of competitive and John Ossoff is kind of a strong candidate, sure. But it's like, okay, even if you lose Michigan and Georgia and even New Hampshire, you're still only at 47. And this doesn't factor in places like Kentucky, Iowa, Louisiana, getting Republicans that are actually halfway decent. So you add all this up. The map is already bad enough for Dems. But now you add in New Hampshire, where they have to spend a bunch of money there potentially. This map goes from really, really, really shitty to, I don't see a pathway for Dems right now in the Senate. I just don't. Because they have to run the table everywhere. They can't lose a single competitive state at all. If they lose one of these, it's It's already over. Even if they win everything, you're already stuck at 49. You have to flip Ohio. You have to flip Texas. That's not going to happen. Just to get the 50-50. And I know the new copium is Alaska. It's like, guys, you're not winning the Senate. The current map is so bad for you, and the current metrics right now don't indicate this massive blue wave. In fact, this indicator is showing it could be a mini red wave in some areas. Not the Republicans are going to gain like 10 Senate seats or whatever, but it's like the national environment is not looking like a 20-point shift against the GOP. It's not. So where's your pathway? If you're going to have a problem now in New Hampshire, that is an additional state you have to defend. You have to win every single state here to barely have a chance, like a 0.1% chance of taking the Senate. Like, you're not going to get it. That's why this is such a huge ordeal for the GOP getting Sununu to jump into the race. And it's confirmed. He is running. So, at the end of the day, this map looks bad for Dems already. But now you got New Hampshire. Beforehand, you know, it's kind of like borderline safe. Now, it's a toss-up. Or, I should say toss-up, but it's way more competitive now. Yeah, so right now I think Republicans, this might have sealed it for them, that they are probably the Senate majority, because that's an additional state Democrats have to win. And they have to put serious time, money, and effort into, or else they potentially lose. Does this look like a serious pathway to you? Where they have to hold on to New Hampshire and, you know, Michigan and Georgia, just get to 47, and then they gotta flip North Carolina, which is a Republican trending state. It's over. This might have been the final nail in the coffin for Dems next year. Now, a lot can happen. I'm not saying it's a guarantee they lose the Senate 100%. I'm saying there is a possibility it happens, I guess. But it's becoming so unlikely that it's like, is it really worth discussing as a serious pathway right now? A lot can happen, sure, but right now, there is nothing that should tell you, oh, Democrats are going to have a Senate majority. There's nothing. If you have to hold on to New Hampshire for dear life, what do you think's happening in North Carolina or even Michigan? Which Michigan has a competitive primary, so it's like, what are you going to do? All these competitive primaries in places like Michigan, places like Maine, and you have big scandals in North Carolina. You have strong candidates in New Hampshire as well. You add all this up, it's looking very good for the Republicans. Democrats, they need a Hail Mary and a half just to barely get to 49. Just to barely get to even 50-50. And that's maybe best case scenario. They get 50-50 in the Senate. But anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.